Fear is not always a scream. Sometimes it's the silence that echoes loudest in a room, the hesitation that freezes us in our tracks when a step forward is all that is needed. It's the weight of what could be lost, paralyzing the will to act. In the heart of the vast Persian Empire, under the reign of King Ahasuerus, such a fear took root, threatening to consume an entire people in its shadow. But it is in the face of such overwhelming dread that true courage is forged, not in the absence of fear, but in spite of it. This is the story of how one woman's quiet resolve became a nation's salvation. Esther, a young Jewish woman of remarkable beauty, moved through the gilded corridors of the royal palace like a whisper. An orphan raised by her cousin Mordecai, she had found favor in the eyes of the king and was chosen to be his queen. Yet within the opulent walls that were now her home, she carried a secret. On Mordecai's counsel, she had concealed her Jewish heritage, a quiet caution that would soon be tested. Her days were a delicate dance of blending in, her hands often clasped in a nervous gesture that betrayed the unspoken burden of her hidden identity. The atmosphere in the palace shifted, the warm glow of favor dimming into a cold, menacing twilight. Haman, a high-ranking and malevolent official, poisoned the king's ear with hatred, securing a decree that sealed the fate of all Jews in the empire: annihilation. The chilling sight of the royal seal pressed into wax, and the sinister silhouettes of guards carrying the edict cast a pall of death over the land. The voice of malice had spoken, and the machinery of destruction had been set in motion, promising a day of sorrow and bloodshed for Esther's people. When news of the decree reached Esther, it struck her with the force of a physical blow. Mordecai sent word, imploring her to go before the king and plead for her people. But to approach the king unsummoned was a death sentence. The law was absolute. Standing by a window, bathed in a single stark ray of light, her hands trembled with the terror of her choice. She was trapped between the certainty of death for defying the law and the certainty of death for her people if she remained silent. It was then that Mordecai's piercing question reached her heart. "And who knows but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this?" In that moment, something shifted within her. The question was not a condemnation, but a calling. The trembling in her hands stilled, her gaze sharpening with newfound purpose. The light around her seemed to brighten as she took a single deliberate step forward, a symbolic stride from fear into faith. The paralysis of what if gave way to a powerful resolve. She would act, entrusting the outcome to a power greater than the king. Her decision was made, her voice clear and steady as she declared, "If I perish, I perish." The immense palace doors groaned open, revealing a long, daunting hall. At the far end, bathed in a brilliant light, sat King Ahasuerus on his throne. As Esther began her walk, the world seemed to slow. The only sounds were the soft rustle of her royal robes and the faint, rhythmic thumping of a heartbeat, a drumbeat of courage against the anvil of fear. Every step was a battle won, a testament to her choice to walk forward even when the path could lead to her own end. She carried the hope of her people with her, a fragile flame in the face of an all-consuming darkness. At a royal banquet she had arranged, the tension was palpable. The light was warm, yet cast long, serious shadows. With a calm strength that belied the danger, Esther finally spoke her truth. The camera holds on her resolute face as she reveals her identity and exposes Haman's wicked plot. The king's shock turns to fury, while Haman's arrogant sneer crumbles into pure terror. In that room, with a few brave words, the entire narrative turned. The hunter became the hunted, and the condemned were given the means to fight for their lives. The story was irrevocably, miraculously rewritten. Courage, we find, is not the grand roaring fire of a warrior on the battlefield. More often, it is the quiet, steady glow of a single candle refusing to be extinguished by the storm. It is the choice to speak when silence is safer, to stand when kneeling is easier, and to step forward into the unknown when your calling demands it. It is found in the heart that, when faced with the possibility of perishing, chooses to act anyway, transforming a moment of crisis into a timeless legacy of faith.